Hi, I'm Betsy Shepardson, artist and author. Are you interested in history? Do you see the framed painting behind me? That's the Molly Brown House parlor at Christmas. And I'm going to let you know something about how I made that painting and interpreted that motif that was made into an illustrator's cards and prints. A number of years ago, I thought this historic site might be a good subject for a painting. I decided to attend one of their programs, a holiday high tea and house tour. My paintings are carefully planned and I took a camera with me. For the holidays, the house was all decorated with Victorian greenery. Perhaps you know that Molly was a legendary Denver citizen of many accomplishments. She and her husband JJ made a fortune in gold mining in Leadville, Colorado, and moved to this house in Capitol Hill in the 1880s. The house had subsequent owners and fell into disrepair and was slated for demolition, but in December of 1970, Historic Denver was formed, and they saved the house and restored it to the days of the Brown family using 1910 photographs and other interesting types of research. If we look at this print, I can explain to you a little of how the painting was done. Going over all my photographs of the house, I liked the drawing room or parlor because it was a place where visitors congregated. It also had some interesting musical instruments used for socializing and entertainment. This giant symphonium music box had a white curtain and could be mistaken for a door. So after some research on these instruments, I painted in the disc that it played and learned that other discs were stored below to play other tunes. When Historic Denver did the restoration, they used a decoratively painted pianoforte, while Molly owned a grand piano. So when I interpreted this instrument for the painting, I decided not to put a lot of detail on it. You can see I like to paint, however, I also like to draw. Using my photographs, I made a number of different sketches, and then I cut a sketch apart and pushed the forms around and closer together to make a better composition. Then I made a grid of squares across on my drawing. I blew this up on tracing paper to a big drawing the size of the painting. And I used this by using another tracing paper grid. Many artists like to work on tracing paper, and I often work on tracing paper early in my plans. The next step is to get this tracing paper drawing onto the special art paper used for the painting. Going over the back of the drawing with a heavy lead pencil, I then taped down the special art paper all the way around so that the water from the paints will not cause it to buckle. And then I trace this down with a sharp pen, and the drawing is ready, the line-informed drawing is ready to be painted in. I had made some unusual color sketches since I like to work with color, but more decided to go with my photographs of the house. I work in gouache paint, which is an opaque watercolor with quite a bit of body. Sometimes I do use some transparent watercolors, but I did not use them in this painting. I mix everything in watercolor trays. Blocking in the big forms with my gouache paint, I then developed the painting to where you see it here. I used touches of pure color on a springy brush to emphasize this area of the stockings around the fireplace. I also emphasized this area with dark against light with the white and the black. I liked the detail of the old-fashioned telephone in the entry hall, the latest in modern technology. Perhaps you know that many artists like to listen to music while they draw and paint. While I made this painting, I listened to a Victorian celebration of the winter solstice, which included a rendition of Old Lang Syne. Would you like to frame the card, get a print, perhaps mail a card to someone interested in history? Or maybe you'd just like to mail a card to someone else.